Morning. Welcome to Hog Island, which, contrary to popular belief, has neither hogs on it or is actually an island. So if you're into hogs or islands, this video is not really for you. But if you're into trees, I've got something really cool to show you. Come on, this way. This is a white oak tree, right? But not just any white oak tree. This bad boy, 274 years old. That makes it 24 years older than the United States of America, period. It was old enough to vote before you could vote. Here at the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, this tree has stood for longer than most of us can even begin to comprehend. It's called the Sentinel Oak, and it's a fantastic example of one of the most important tree species in American history. If we're celebrating America's 250th birthday, we need to celebrate these trees too, which leaves me with just one question for you. Want to go on a road trip? The U.S. Department of Agriculture describes the white oak as an outstanding tree among all trees. Do you see why? Standing a whopping 93 feet tall, the Nottingham oak here is one of the oldest and largest remaining individuals in the entire state of Maryland. It takes lots of patience to get this big. Sometimes a white oak can take 50 years to start dropping acorns. Even so, slow and steady wins the race. Let them be, and they can easily live to be 200 years old. Some go much further, including our gigantic friend here. It's estimated to be at least 300 years old, and it shows no signs of quitting anytime soon. Unlike the other trees we'll be visiting today, the Nottingham oak actually has company of similar age. To our right is the East Nottingham Friends Meeting House, the oldest part of which was constructed in 1724. This building and the land it sits on have history dating back 50 years before the Declaration of Independence was signed, and it all begins with a guy named William Penn. Does Pennsylvania ring a bell?
I'm Bobby Haynes. I'm from Rising Sun, Maryland. My family's been Quaker back to the 1600s. I guess you're referring to the large tree outside of the meeting house. It is the state tree of Maryland right now, the largest oak in Maryland. Quakers tell the story that William Penn sat in the shade of that tree and looked around and said that he wanted to preserve this land right here for religious, burial, and educational purposes. If that tree could talk, what would it say? Men will never change. The wheel keeps on turning. We're still driven by power, curiosity. We have new tools, but we're still the same old beast that we ever were. So much is made about that tree, and a lot of people want to take acorns off that tree. But that tree stands for a lot of reasons besides the genetics behind it. Why hasn't it been struck by lightning? Why hasn't it been taken over by the windstorm? I could show you trees around here that never made it, and they weren't near as old as that one. There's just so many other factors in what it takes for a tree to have lived that long. It had to become something before anybody cared about making it the only thing that was growing there. God doesn't want it to fall yet.
One could argue that the only characteristic of the white oak more remarkable than its age or its stature is the versatility of its wood. Thanks to dense plant tissue and tight grain, the lumber of this tree is both extremely durable and waterproof. When the United States Navy decided to build its first warships in 1797, it was one of the materials of choice. And what better testament to the white oak's durability than, I don't know, one of those 6 original ships? That is the USS Constellation. Rebuilt in 1854, it was the last all-wooden ship that the US Navy ever constructed. And we're gonna go on it.
I am John Hack. I am the ship's carpenter on the Constellation. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. The U.S. Constellation is the last all-sail sailing vessel built for the U.S. Navy, and she was a naval vessel and a sail training ship. The original frigate of the USS Constellation was built in 1797. It needed to be refitted down at Newport News, Virginia. It was easier to build a new ship versus repairing the old ship. White oak is the traditional building material for sailing ships because of the way it grows in curves. The carpenters and shipwrights would use those curves to make the shape of the ship. If we explore the ship, I think she'll tell her own story to you. A lot of the columns that are down here are white oak. Some of the pieces in the capstan here, that's white oak. You stick the bar in, and you could have 30 people on this bar and 30 people above to raise anchor or whatever you were doing. So the keelson is this guy.
Okay.
The piece on top, and then the keel runs down through here. You lay the keel down, you'll start putting in the frames and then build the boat up and up and up. It's the backbone of the boat, and it is 100% white oak. When this boat was built, they would have hundreds of shipwrights and apprentices and people that were very skilled with their hand tools. Very few people have the skills to do it anymore. These guys would, sail as close as they could and just let loose on each other.
It's pretty cool. In 1963, Congress legally designated bourbon as a distinctive product of the United States. After that, they laid out a specific set of production standards to ensure that this would never change. The most important of these rules is that the spirit must be stored in fresh white oak barrels, which are charred before use. The burnt wood provides the spirit's unique flavor and qualifies it as true bourbon. Without white oak, bourbon is just whiskey. An exclusively American tree makes for an exclusively American drink. And after you've had a glass or four, I'm sure that you'll be very proud of your country. At least that's what they tell me. I'm not even old enough to drink. 10 minutes down the road from the USS Constellation is the Sagamore Distillery. And when it comes to spirits, fine folks here definitely know a thing or two.
I'm Max Haynes. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. We are at Sagamore Spirit, where I am the Director of Distilling Operations. I helped build distilleries in New York City and then found my way to this one in the Mid-Atlantic because I love rye whiskey. White oak is an incredibly interesting resource. When you construct a barrel out of it, it is both porous and also leak-proof at the same time. It is a hard wood. It's able to be shaped into the curved shape of a barrel really nicely. When you're storing a liquid in the barrel, you want the liquid to move in and out of the wood of the barrel. So the capillaries of white oak are open enough that whiskey can actually move into the barrel, but white oak in particular has a lot of tyloses, these little structures that break up the capillaries of the wood and cause them to not let liquid to move all the way through them. If you were to fill a barrel of red oak, for example, the whiskey would go into the barrel and then it would move through the capillaries to the outside of the barrel.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm the barreling supervisor here at Sagamore Spirit Distillery, and we're doing a barrel fill today. So yeah, this is just a barrel filler. Functions just like a gas pump. The nozzle goes in, fills it up to 53 gallons. If you taste the distillate right now, it's essentially moonshine. The charred white oak specifically, that's where you're getting all of those vanilla, caramel, sweet flavors that you would get in a whiskey.
So once we've used them, you cannot use them again in the production of bourbon or rye whiskey. We will sell them to other spirits producers who are able to use used cooperage in their products. Rum distillers, maybe brandy distillers, or even a beer brewer who wants to finish a beer in a whiskey barrel. The trees that we harvest for whiskey barrel production are incredible. They are being turned into a product that has decades upon decades of usable life. Ever since 2015, we've been putting whiskey down in Maryland oak barrels for future products that can really speak to the place that we're making things. I do not think that American whiskey is going anywhere. It is has a rich and storied history. It's in an incredible spot right now, and it has a bright future ahead of it.
Welcome to Potomac, Maryland, home of the Travilla Oak. It's pretty impressive, right? The tree gets its name from the first postmaster in the area, a guy named Travilla Claggett, who lived here in the late 1800s. I guess being a mailman back then got you pretty big props considering the size of this tree and the imprint it has left on this community. At over 300 years old, this tree was already elderly by human standards by the time the first Independence Day rolled around. When it was last measured in 2021, it had a circumference a little over 19 feet, a height of 78 feet, and an average crown width stretching 110 feet. Trees like this one are the bread and butter of the Maryland Big Tree Program. Since 1925, they've been going around the state, documenting large trees like this one and measuring different statistics about the trees to add them to a champion registry. Today, I'm going to be meeting with the chair of the program, who should be here any minute now. I'm not really sure what's up with that. Oh.
Hi, Wes. Nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
My name is Jolie McCatherine. I'm chair of the Maryland Big Tree Program. And I forget what else you asked me. It's a program where our goal is, our mission is to find the largest of each species in the state. And we do it on a county level, a state level, and then for the National Champion Tree Program. One rule is you have to touch the tree. You have to touch that tree or you haven't visited it. I mean, it gives a powerful feeling when you touch that tree and you know that it's been there a very long time. The first thing you do is measure the circumference at 4.5 feet above ground level. You add that up in inches. And I'm gonna go around the whole tree under the lightning protection. Thank goodness it has lightning protection. 19 feet, 4 inches. All right, so what I wanna do now, because it's a safe area to do it, is I wanna do the heights. I'm gonna go out in the parking lot till I can see the highest point. This is a clinometer or hypsometer all in one. So you just click it at the bottom and you click it at the top and it'll give me a number. So I'm not quite sure which is the tallest branch. I can see it's up there. So I'm just going across to see which one is taller. That's a pretty good reading. 78 feet tall. This is the spread, crown width. North, south, east, west of the spread. And we divide that by 4, and that gives us a quarter of the spread. 118 feet. Height plus 42.5 for the quarter, and I get 352.5 points. That's a total, 353. We accept any tree that's 300 points or more because that's a sign of a large tree. So this is clearly within that range, above that range, so we know it's a good one. We all have a passion for this, and we love working together. It's a great group of people, dedicated, and we're just having fun doing it. We just love it.
The Champion Tree Program might be a nationwide effort, but it actually has its roots in Maryland. It was Maryland's first state forester who developed the point system used by Jolie and her volunteers to this day. But to get a better idea of the competition's origins, we're going to have to head east again. Now, the Nottingham oak that we visited this morning is the current Wye Oak state champion of Maryland, but it hasn't held that title for very long. A lot of large Wye Oak trees have claimed the title only to fall a few years later and be replaced by the next biggest tree. But before that, there used to be an undisputed champion. A tree so large that it held the title for 62 years straight. A tree so massive that it wasn't just the state champion, it was the national champion. The biggest white oak in the entire country. Unfortunately, the tree hasn't been with us for some time now, but its legacy lives on. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Wye Oak.
I'm Ann Harston Strang. I'm the Maryland State Forester, and we're at the Wye Oak State Park in Wye Mills, Maryland. Fred Besley was Maryland's first state forester, was the state forester for 38 years. The Big Tree Program was something that he started around 1925. They were already celebrating the Wye Oak before that. It was, recognized as a really significant tree. That inspired him to start a competition in 1925 for other big trees in Maryland. To do that, he established the measurement system that is still used today in the now national system.
I'm Garrett Dickel, and I'm an arborist for Bartlett Tree Experts. My team and I take care of the clone that's sitting in the footprint of the original Wye Oak. From what I understand, it was a cutting from the original, so it's literally the same genetics as the original tree. Any arborist in Maryland knows about the Wye Oak. I mean, there were limbs on this tree that are bigger than some big trees that we see. White oaks are the king of hardwoods, and this was like the king of white oaks. This was the most grand tree that there was. It fell whenever I was just a young kid. It was actually hollow in the center. From what I understand, the tree kind of fell down almost like a can crush, laid out across the street and the park and everywhere. The entire history of arboriculture happened within the lifespan of that tree. Everybody just wanted to care for it. I'm happy to do it as long as I'm still living here. It was such a massive and inspirational tree, and it was just like the best of its kind.
All right, y'all. Behind me is the Lutheran Oak, and also behind me is the Emmanuel Lutheran Church. This tree has presided over that church since 1912, although before that, it saw quite a few churches come and go. The first of which was actually a charter commissioned by none other than King George II. Here in Manchester, it's a fixture of the landscape. It's even displayed in the town's seal, along with the church's steeple. She's certainly a beauty.
My name is Brenda Woolforst. I am from this area all my life, 78 years. We're in the oak tree room at Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Manchester, Maryland. The oak tree room was named for our 325-year-old oak tree that sits over to the right of where we are right now. Emmanuel Lutheran Church had nothing at any time with planting the tree. It just was there. The church, because it's on their property, assumed the responsibility of caring for the oak tree. I'm here because my uncle, Earl Yingling, worked for the Maryland Forestry Department. He was the caretaker of the tree until he died. And he also cared for the Wye Oak down on the eastern shore. Limbs break off of the oak tree, and we didn't just discard them. We had a gentleman in the congregation who had a sawmill, and he made wooden crosses out of the limbs of the oak tree, and we sold those in the church to help pay for maintenance. The tree is the symbol for the town of Manchester, and they use it on their letterhead. They also publish a publication called Oak Notes. They've got a love for the tree, the whole town. Manchester itself was founded in 1765. It's seen just about everybody in Manchester, so it's a pretty big deal when you get right down to it.
So, welcome back to Hog Island. As our road trip draws to a close, I have to be fully transparent with you. We didn't visit all of the white oaks in Maryland that are over 250 years old. There's actually way too many. We visited the 3 that are publicly accessible, but there's at least 11 more that are registered to private landowners, and who knows how many more haven't been discovered. Sadly, the white oak's future is uncertain. As it stands, mature trees are not being replaced by enough new saplings to maintain the current population. Competition from faster growing trees, suppression of natural fire, and white-tailed deer with a taste for saplings are just a few of the threats at hand. Thankfully, there are plenty of people who care deeply about protecting these trees. State governments, nonprofits such as the Wye Oak Initiative, and private industries all want to see the white oak thrive for another 250 years and beyond. And the trees that we visited today are also living proof. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 250 years of American history, but I can only hope that there will still be white oaks around for future generations to enjoy and marvel at. When it comes to trees on the East Coast, you can't get much bigger or better. And maybe if we're lucky, the Sentinel will still be here in 250 years to celebrate its 500th Independence Day on Hog Island, as strong and as stoic as ever. After all, things only get better with age. Trees, ships, bourbon. I'll drink to that.
But you're not old enough to drink.
We're recording. That's beside the point.